Okay, Behind the Gate, Greensboro, episode 25. We have Jacob the Jeweler. I can't say the word. I had it so good. Jeweler, Jacob Raymond Jewelers, downtown Greensboro, McGee Street, custom. Thank you so much for being on the show. We're going to get right into it. For folks that have not met you or are not aware of your shop or what you do, tell us about it.
Well, my shop is not like your normal jewelry store. Everything in there is made there. I like to design all different types of jewelry, and I do silver items that are $50 to $10,000 engagement rings or more. Just depends on what the person that comes in wants. I really try and have something for everyone who comes in the door. All different styles, all different price ranges.
Nice. So now my interest is piqued. When you say like a $10,000 custom ring, where are you? I'm curious where you're basing that number on. Is it the material, the labor, everything about it, since it's all custom? Are they bringing you the stone, the materials to make it with, or are you just going from scratch? Like, I'm super intrigued by this.
All the above. So some people come in with their family heirloom, their grandma's diamond, and I make a ring from that. Sometimes I supply the stone. So, like I said, I'm not your normal jewelry store, so I probably do more non-traditional engagement rings than most jewelry stores. I do a lot of sapphire engagement rings, and they're all one-of-a-kind, unique pieces. Not everybody who comes in my store wants something, out of this world unique, so I can still do your, normal, as I say, normal jewelry if someone wants that.
Like your typical band-looking type stuff. And
so I still do things the old-fashioned way. Now, most jewelry is designed on a computer, and then they hit a button and it's 3D printed, and then that's cast, which I don't even know how to do that. So I still I carve a wax and cast it, or I take the metal and hand fabricate it and make a ring that way. So that cost really depends on the design, how much labor goes into this ring, and then materials, whether it's gold, whether it's platinum, whether it's a mix of materials. So that's pretty much, labor, materials, and whether I'm supplying the stone or not will determine how much that ring costs. I mean, of course, I do other things too, not just rings, but I do more rings than anything else.
Yeah. Now maybe I'm skipping ahead for conversations later in the episode, but now I'm just super curious. Most expensive piece of jewelry that you've made?
Well, in my career, which not at my own shop, the most expensive piece of jewelry I've made was probably around $250,000 ring.
Holy shit.
So it was very, very large diamond, 7.5 carats, very good quality, and actually had a slight pink color to it, which actually is even rare, so therefore the cost was, even more because of that. So
now, was that one of those situations where they brought you the stone, or did you supply the stone?
That one they actually brought to
the
store that I was working at the time. But I mean, the ring itself, this was also probably 20 years ago that I made that ring. So it's probably actually even worth a lot more than that now. That was 20 years ago. So, because the price of diamonds, like high-end diamonds like that, continually go up.
Thomas, you got that?
No.
No? You don't have...
Are you talking about money?
Yeah, money.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
No?
I was hoping I could get some from you.
Shit. My wife's ring was a hand-me-down. No, that's so cool. Sorry to shift gears there. And on that note, like you know what? We'll skip past that. That's crazy. $250,000. I could not imagine. Typical jeweler. I'm gonna butcher that word this entire episode, but we're gonna fight through it. Maybe the look, the feel, the vibe is not what a typical jeweler would be. Do you lean into that? Do you fight that? Kind of tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I definitely lean into that. I'm definitely more, I would say, an artist than a jeweler. Just my medium is jewelry. So I don't want to do the same thing over and over again. A lot of jewelry is made that way. You just do production, and I don't want to make the same thing over and over again. I want to do something new and unique. And that's my style. I like to call myself an equal opportunity creativist, which means I like to do all different types of designs, whether it's, organic, kind of antique-y estate pieces, whether it's contemporary, whether it's geometric. And then I like to take all those different types of design and actually mix them together in one piece. So it's very much what I call wearable art.
It's a good way to look at it. So I am looking to put together a piece of jewelry. Whether we were just talking about horseshoe rings and whatnot. I want to come to you and say, hey man, I've got this idea. I want to give it to so and so. Yada yada. Take me through that process. How do I connect with you? Where do I find you? What does that consult look like? Kind of bring us into your world.
All right. So typically most people reach out to me on either social media or through my website, emailing me and start asking me questions like, hey, I have this idea. Can you do this? And my answer is always, well, of course, yes, that's what I do. So typically it's easier to have them come into the store, but I do work for people all over the United States and even done work for people over in France and Australia and Canada. So, and those people find me through Instagram because, that's a great, it is definitely my best seller, or I guess not seller. It's definitely my best, what is the word I'm looking for?
Lead generation opportunity.
Yes. Thank you.
It's where most people find you, which
Yes.
is cool. Hey, we'll drop his Instagram either on the screen or down low. But okay, so Instagram is your number one source of, hey, you want to come find Jacob? This is the best place to go.
Yep. And then, so I do work with people all over the country doing custom work for them. So it's a lot of emailing back and forth. If you're doing it that way, the easiest thing is actually come into the store. So typically what I tell people is, okay, this is what you need to be thinking about. If you don't know what you want it to look like yet, then, okay, what stones do you want in it? What shape stones? How big are these stones? What type of metal do you want to put it in? And then the other thing is, okay, just start looking on my Instagram page or anywhere else on the World Wide Web, and start collecting images of pieces of jewelry that you like. And it doesn't have to be, this is the piece that I want, but just start collecting pieces that you like. And then eventually what happens is, we see a pattern that is developing there. And most people typically know, as far as what kind of metal they want it in. And then they kind of have an idea mostly of the stone that they want to use. But, unfortunately, budget has to put a play in that factor. And so some people want something, but, your budget doesn't allow that. So we need to shift and make something a little different kind of stuff. So they come in then, and we sit down and have a consultation. They look at the jewelry that I have in the cases that I've already made, And a lot of times it's amazing how often people will not like be drawn to a piece until they actually put it on. And I mean, I've had multiple people where I pulled out a piece and be like, here, check this one out. And they put it on and they like fall in love with it and buy it. Whereas before they was like, I saw that and it did nothing for me. But once it was on my hand, I absolutely loved it. So going back
It's like a connection thing.
Yeah.
Almost.
And you really need to try it on. It really is, what I call wearable art, and with that, so we start to kind of, okay, you like this shaped stone. Now the style wise, like, do you want something that has engraving on it? Because I do hand engraving as well. So do you want engraving? Do you want it nice and clean? Do you want it traditional? Do you want it to be organic? And those patterns emerge, and then we can kind of put that together, basically, as we're sitting there together. And, there's a lot of jewelry out there, like I was talking about, they design it on a computer. You can have this computer-generated image to show you what your ring's going to look like. I don't know how to do that and don't do that. So, I go by the pictures, of all the pieces that I've made before, and then just to kind of give people a general look what it looks like. I will sketch it out on a piece of paper, but it's a one-dimensional image, so it's not awesome, but at the same time, it gives them an idea of what it's going to look like if I don't have a picture of something that's close to what they're wanting.
I like that. Sounds like they kind of create their own little Pinterest of jewelry.
Yes.
And then, you had mentioned kind of doing some things for the tattoo shop close by for you, and it kind of made me think of, I only have one tattoo, but kind of the same thing with it being art or custom and whatnot. That whole process of you give the artist kind of what you're looking for, and maybe they come back with a rough draft of like, hey, how does this feel? How does this look? And that does seem a lot different than just walking into a store and being like, all right, I'm looking for that, right? And that's cool. That's really cool. How long does that typically take, that process? I'm sure it can range big time.
It basically strictly depends on the client and how quickly they can make decisions. If they're indecisive, that takes longer. So I've had 15 minutes, get it done in 15 minutes, and I've had it take 3 hours. So, that was a long one, the 3 hour one. But
I figured you were going to be like, I've had like 3 years. And
well, I mean, that's sitting down together. I mean, yeah, there are times that like we're messaging back and forth and, that kind of stuff. But once they're in the shop, we tend to kind of are able to narrow it down and figure out what they want. The only time like when that doesn't happen is because they're indecisive and be like, well, I can't decide if I want it this way or if I want it that way. And, I always tell people like, hey, if you don't know what you want yet, if you can't make a decision, just wait. Just give it some time, think about it, and you'll figure it out. There's no reason to rush into this to get something done. Like, think about it.
You've got me thinking about it. So I'm going through an estate sale process with my aunt's house right now. Jewelry has been part of that, looking at it and whatnot. And the reason I bring that up is like, let's say I'm 30 years from now, I'm doing something like that, and I'm looking through something, or I see something, and I see, Jake, like, oh man, that's crazy. That's a custom piece. Like, I met that guy. His name's Jacob. He was on my podcast. Do you have that type of, I know you said engraving or whatnot. Is there a way down the road, kind of leaving your legacy way after we're all gone, for somebody to say, Jacob made that piece and here's how I know that?
I mean, I do stamp my work. JR is stamped on the inside of the rings that I make, and whether it's pendants or whatever, that's also stamped. And so there's definitely a record of kind of who made that, and there's enough if you did a search on the internet on the old internets,
On the old computer thingy, that screen thing.
yes, there's enough stuff out there that my name would come up just through being interviewed like this, winning design awards, that kind of stuff certainly helps put you out there. The more that your name is on the internet, the more it pops up.
Mm-hmm. That's a great little segue shift here. Design awards. So you've won some awards.
Yeah.
Let's do 2 questions there. Biggest award, one you're most proud of. And it obviously could be the same thing too, right?
Yeah. I would probably say the winning when I first opened my store in 2017, the very next year I entered the American Gem Trade Association. They have an awards. It's called the Spectrum Awards, but it's basically the Oscars for the jewelry industry. There's all sorts of contests out there, but it's probably the biggest, most well known. And winning that was, in my first year of being in business was pretty awesome.
That is incredible. So, like the Oscars, there's different categories. Is that kind of how that goes?
Yes.
And if so, which category did you win?
Yes, there are different categories. So I won. So they have like a men's category, a classical, a bridal, and then I actually do just plain gems as well. But I actually won in the classical category, and I won the Platinum Innovation Award. So the ring that I made was made completely out of platinum and featured a 2.12 carat Montana sapphire, and then I added a couple little blue sapphires on there, and it had a classic feel to it. I added engraving to it, and my hand engraving is not your typical normal hand engraving that you would see out there in the market. I try and do more unique patterns, just still more part of that wearable art and not do the same thing everyone else is doing. Mm-hmm. So that's probably, and I've won that award. Then what was it? 2020 as well. I won it again in 2020 with a different ring, but it was the Platinum Innovation Award in the bridal category this time.
Okay.
So the Platinum Innovation Award part is basically it has to be made out of platinum, A, and then B, they actually put a value limit on the piece. So the center stone can be whatever price you want it to be, but the rest of the ring can't be typically more than $3,500.
Okay.
So you are kind of limited to what you can do and what you can put into the piece because of that.
So somebody can't just come in there and overpower the competition and
yes,
submit $1 million platinum ring. And I like that.
And they do that. And, if you're not going for the Platinum Innovation Award, then this is what happens. Like I just put this. I have a $200,000 gem I put in this ring, and it's has a good chance of winning because the gem is so expensive.
Yeah. That is. Do you still have that ring?
The 2018 ring I did sell. I still have the 2021.
So, if you don't mind sharing, what was the cost of that 2018 ring?
So
you can give approximate.
It was. I'm trying to remember. I think it was around 10,000.
Okay,
so
that's cool. Where do they do that awards?
So the AGTA is based out of Dallas, Texas, and then typically the actual contest takes place in New York. So they kind of rent space in New York City, and they bring in different judges every year. Typically, it's like 5 judges from different aspects of the jewelry industry, and they just over the weekend they just start judging, and you score the stuff, and all the stuff that gets the higher score, moves on to the next round, and all the rest kind of goes to the side, and until they finally keep going and going and going, and until you have the winners.
At what point do they ask you to be a judge, or is that something you wouldn't want to do?
Yeah, I would love to, do that. That's kind of a bucket list thing for me to be considered to be one of the judges.
Okay.
So, but,
So if they didn't know, they know now.
Yeah. I'm waiting for that call.
Yeah. Let's go. Pick it up. 2-time winner.
Actually, I actually won more than that. So
he's like, wait a minute. Whoa. 8-time winner.
It's actually 12.
12. We're getting there. That's incredible, though. All this, wow, 12-time winner. And you've only, I say only, God, it feels like it's almost been 10 years. And you opened up your own shop in 2017?
2017, yep.
Okay.
So it's been 8.5 years. But the other awards I won when I worked for someone else.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, let's take it back a little bit. Kind of going back to more of your origin, early influence. Tell us about where the shop name comes from.
So, shop is Jacob Raymond. I'm Jacob. Raymond was my grandfather who made jewelry, and he actually started his career in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which I was actually born in Milwaukee. But there was a guy there, George Boudet, that owned a jewelry store, and he started learning from him. And then, it was in around late 50s, he moved out to Southern California and was doing it out there. So he lived in Simi Valley. So when I was 5, we moved out to Southern California. So I kind of grew up around him. Although we lived in Orange County, he was in Simi Valley, so it's 1.5 to 2-hour drive depending on traffic. So we didn't go up there like all the time, but I remember going up there and being around it. And so after that, in my senior year of high school, we moved, out of California to the South. And, at that time, I'm not thinking what I want to do for a career. And, went to college. I did 3 semesters of college and changed my major every semester. And then we moved from South Carolina to North Carolina, and my parents were like, hey, let's live here a year so we can get in-state tuition. And I was going to change my major again. But before then, I actually met a guy who was a gemologist, and I was like, well, that's interesting. I always liked gems and rocks and minerals and all that kind of stuff. So from him, I learned about the Gemological Institute of America. So I started actually first studying to be a gemologist first. And then I found out about a stone cutting class to actually cut gems. And so I took that class, and I was like, this is kind of boring. It's just like grind this down till it hits this number, turn it to that number, grind it down till it hits that number. It was kind of boring for me. But in that class, I found out about the Sawtooth Center in Winston-Salem and the fact that they had jewelry making classes. And so I took that class. That was 1993. And as soon as I took that class, I was like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. I sold my motorcycle. I bought tools and was just working in, making rings in my parents' garage. And,
Now, was that local? I know you said Winston-Salem. Were they local at that time too?
Yeah, my parents, we all lived here in Greensboro at the time. So
now was that starting around 93?
Yeah, that was 93 when I took my first jewelry making class. Okay. And I still have that ring, the very first ring that I ever made. I got it in my case, at the shop there. So
I was going to say that's the grill, that's the no value to it type thing. That's awesome. You mentioned the tools. From what I hear, they're not very. What are we going to say? you don't do 3D printing. Would you say your tools are newer or older? Let's go that route.
I mean, I use both.
Okay.
So when I decided to make jewelry for a living, my grandfather was still in California, and he was old. He wasn't doing it anymore. And so he sent me a box, shipped me a box with some hand tools and stuff so I could have, more tools. And then about 2 years after that, my grandfather passed away. And so my dad flew out to California and put everything basically, on a moving truck and shipped it all out here on a pallet. So I have all his tools and still use a lot of them today. One of them is my ring mandrel, which the ring mandrel is basically a steel rod that's tapered, and you actually have the finger size on there. So you actually use it to form metal in the right finger size, and then if you're sizing a ring or something like that, or you want to check the size of a ring, you put it on that, and it will tell you what size it is. So the ring mandrel that I got from my grandfather has George Boudet's autograph, or it's like basically engraved in the bottom of that shank, or the bottom of that mandrel. So I mean, this ring mandrel's at least from the 50s or before.
Jeez.
And then probably my favorite tool that I got from him is my dividers. So which is, if you don't know what those are, they basically it's a little steel tool that you can adjust how wide they open up. And you can basically do small measurements and scribe lines and stuff like that. And that particular tool, there's 3 other people's initials where they engraved on it, because that's what you did, when you worked in shops and stuff. You put your initials on it so people wouldn't steal your tools. And that has a date on it from 1895 from the Starrett Company. And that company's still in business making dividers in Boston, Massachusetts.
Holy shit. Love Boston. I went there for the first time like 2 years ago, maybe. I want to go back. That is incredible. I love to hear that. So running a business can be pretty tough. It sounds like when you took that kind of leap of faith and started running your own business and doing your own stuff, just like me, you didn't know much. So kind of take us through that process. And then, what did that do to you financially, and how were you able to kind of overcome that to continue doing what you love and kind of live in your passion?
Yeah, absolutely. I, from the very beginning, was like, I'm going to own my own business. Like, however that going to work out, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to have a jewelry store is what I'm going to do. And then working at a jewelry store, I'm like, I look at these owners and they work a lot. Like,
it's not all sunshine over here.
Do I want that? And so I kind of thought, you know what? Having a retail store, you have to show up every day. You can't be like, I'm taking the day off, And yeah. I mean, unless you have employees that can do all this stuff while you're not there. But so my thought was, okay, I'm gonna actually design jewelry and I'll sell it to jewelry stores. And that was another idea that I wanted to do and tried to do, and just never really took off. And mainly because I got married. I had 3 kids. My wife stayed home with the 3 kids. I got paid by the hour. Like, there was not a whole lot of money to start a business. And I was going to start that business. And I figured, I got to work my full-time job. And then I got to come home and I got to make jewelry and try and get that up and running. Like, how am I going to be there around my kids? They were, at the time, I think they were like 5, 3, and 1, and I was just like, I'd rather be there for my kids when they're young. So I kind of shelved that idea and said, okay, I'm going to find a jewelry store where I get to design my own pieces, and that's pretty rare to actually find that in the jewelry industry. Most jewelry stores are, they're just buying and selling jewelry. So I've got a job where I was able to make my own designs and did that for 10 years. And then finally was like, okay, maybe I'm more financial secure. My kids are older now. They don't really need me so much. They're all, teenagers. And so maybe I'll give this a shot. And so that's basically what happened. I was talking to my friend Nate that owns the Legacy Iron Tattoo Parlor, and like, hey, I want to, open
Shout
my
out to
own,
Nate.
yeah,
Local business as well, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to, open my own shop, kind of stuff. And he's like, well, the jewelry store 2 doors down from me, they're wanting to get out of their lease. And, if you want, I'll talk to the landlord and, we'll see what we can make happen. And, sure enough, it all just worked out. They were ready to retire, and I bought all their cases. I bought the safe. All the lighting was done. So literally, typically when you start a business and you move into a space, now you got to do a build out and make it to what you want it to be.
Yeah, you got to outfit it for sure.
I didn't have to do any of that. I mean, I literally quit my job on Friday and was open the next day on a Saturday. Now, I didn't do any business,
So you went like,
but I was there.
You were quit, and then you're like, neon open sign just on.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of planning involved, a few months of planning, where I was trying to get everything nailed down and all that kind of stuff. And then I gave my boss, 2 weeks notice, and knew that, okay, I'm going to take possession of this space on like middle of July. And so I gave him my 2 weeks notice. And so I worked my job, and
Sorry, thought that was on Do Not Disturb.
it's all right. So I worked my job and then drove to Greensboro and started setting up my shop in the evenings, and did that for 2 weeks. And then that August 1st of 2017 was on a Saturday. So I worked my last day on Friday and went into the shop on that Saturday and was open for business.
Most people, when they do something like that, they'll be like, I'm going to take like a week vacation, reset. You're like, no, fuck it. Next day I'm in. I love that.
Yeah.
For the business owners out there, or for people who may be thinking of starting a business, or they're early on and struggling, is there anything you would have done differently looking back on that? Kind of a two-parter here. Would you have started sooner, or do you feel like it kind of came together the way it should? And then as you were going through those 2 weeks and getting that shop ready, kind of hindsight, is there anything you would have done differently to set yourself up for success?
I mean, just the way it all worked out was definitely what I call, God's providence. I mean, it was meant to be, is how I like to put it. In those 2 weeks, would I have done anything different? Definitely not. The first few years of the business was not, booming. So it took a lot. We basically, what we did was we got a home equity line for our home, and just use that to start the business, and use that to kind of supplement our income, because when we first opened the doors, there wasn't a lot of money coming in. So it was definitely, a lot of work. Took a lot longer than I thought. I talked to multiple people, and they're like, yeah, man, you'll do great, it'll be awesome, but just know it's like 2 to 5 years for you to get your business, kind of up and running and really, in stride and making money. And, the other businesses that I worked at actually did very well from the very beginning. And so I'm like, mine will do the same thing. Mine will take off.
That's y'all, not me.
Yeah, that's exactly what I didn't say that out loud. I'm just in my head. Like, no, that's not going to happen to me. I'm going to be booming as soon as I open the doors. And yeah, that did not happen. it was very, very slow growth, and it was very difficult. Multiple times I thought, this place is not going to make it. I have now sunk every dollar I have into this place, and it's going up in flames kind of, mentality. So, but we just kept at it, and, just every year just grew a little bit more.
Was there a defining moment where you were like, all right, we're like foot down, we're going now? Was it like one sale a piece, or was it just kind of that slow, gradual?
Definitely not a moment. It was definitely slow growth, and it's interesting for me to think about this of, in the bank account, right? I mean, you look at your bank account and you got money in there, and then, okay, you got to pay your bills. And then what happens to your bank account? Like, and typically on the first, I got to pay rent, at the shop. I got to pay myself a salary, I got to pay basically my credit card bill, which is I'm buying all my supplies and stuff typically, from that.
Got to get that 2-3% money back, man. Come on.
Yeah. So, that the first, like that bank account just goes way down. And, when that happens, it's like your bank account is at its lowest. And, in the beginning, like that bank account would be down to like $1,000. I'm like, I don't know how we're going to make it happen. But people would come in, and, you build it back up, and then, oh yeah, we feel pretty good. We got money, but then the first rolls around the next month, and then it's so looking back at that and just seeing the gradual growth of my bank account basically is how I view my success after that big, lump money that comes out on the first. Like, how much do I have left in the bank? And so I feel better, when there's a certain amount in my bank account.
How long do you feel like that process was for you? Because I've been there, done that, wrote the book, had to redo it again. Also kind of currently redoing it. Is it, man, if we didn't make any money for the next 3 months, we'll be okay, or 6 months, or a year? Were you judging that success level on something like that, or was it just like, oh man, I can write myself a bigger check, or I can buy more pieces to get more creative, I can carry more inventory? Was there one thing that like stuck out to you that was like, man, I'm living my dream and I know that I can continue to do it, versus like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to make it, I
mean, I would say by end of year 3, I felt like, okay, we're doing pretty good. Okay. But, at the same time, I'm not in control of whether anyone's going to come in and buy anything or, commission me to make a custom piece. So it still is like, okay, if no one came in, like I got in a couple months of, money that I can support myself with, at least. But I mean, that never happened. Like, I don't go a month without a single person coming in, without commissioning a piece. So I don't, even though my mind can go there sometimes, in reality, like I feel pretty good, just with, the consistency of people coming in and ordering custom jewelry. And for me and my business, it is a little different like that, where I'm not just waiting for someone to come in and buy something. I do a lot of custom work. So they come in, we have a discussion, and we, talk, and they give me a deposit. And then I know right now I'm running about 8 weeks. If you commission me to do a piece, it's around 8 weeks till you get it back.
Okay.
So at all times, I can run through my receipts and know how much money that I have for sure coming in the next 8 weeks. So that, to me, that's helpful. I'm not just there waiting for someone to show up every day.
Yeah. I was going to say, and that's kind of like, I think about that in my business sometimes too. you've got to have some type of goal. You've got to have some type of tracker, right? And I'm helping people buy and sell homes, and that's important, right? But if you don't, it doesn't take a genius to know if somebody doesn't buy or sell something and use me as a representation. Nobody pays me to be a real estate agent. And it's the sales side of things. I don't want to think of myself as a salesperson, but I am. I have to have leads. I have to have business, and I have to track that and know what's coming up, what's in my pipeline. So it's cool to hear you kind of can look at that the same way. And I'm curious what that number is. Is there, when you look at that, is it, I need to be at 10 weeks at all times? I need to have X amount of dollars in backlog at all times? Like, how do you measure that if you were going to sit down and say, hey, I'm making a goal for this year? Or is it really more just about the art, or a combination,
I mean, I would definitely say, there's a lot of different factors there. One is, okay, how many custom jobs do I have at any given time versus how much money is actually in my bank account? And then for me, I'm, also wanting to buy more gems and, metal to actually make more pieces. So depending on all those factors, kind of really depends on how good I feel about the future. But, I think that I'm not a businessman. I mean, technically, I guess I am, but that's not my strength.
No.
I'm an artist. I have an artist brain. I'm not. It's really funny because I make it up as I go along. I mean, my entire life is made up as I go along, and so I'm not a planner. I'm not thinking 3 months out I need to be doing this, or 6 months out, a year out. I don't do any of that. I just show up every day and make jewelry.
That's pretty cool. I appreciate that though. Like, I feel like and I was going to pull in kind of social media in this conversation and how you've utilized that over the years. Now that's changed. We were talking about the algorithm, and we mentioned that was kind of your primary source of getting out there to the world. Like, you just, I feel like if you own a business and you go on and you start doing the scroll, right? The algorithm's going to catch, they know what you're, and it's like, oh, I'm going to put this in front. So I get so many like business videos and entrepreneurial thoughts, and you got to be this and this and this, and wake up at 4 a.m. and take ice baths and all the stuff that you got to do to be successful. So it's kind of cool to hear somebody, not to say that you don't have a regimented thing that you do to be successful, but it's like, hey man, I make jewelry. I'm gonna wake up tomorrow, I'm gonna go make some jewelry, and I'll wake up the next day and go do that too. It's almost like refreshing to me, not to go down a different path, but it's cool to hear that.
I definitely probably would be more successful if I actually did.
Would you enjoy it as much though?
Probably not. I'm probably not.
Yeah. Is there a level of spontaneous action that you personally like that provides?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I sometimes will make jewelry, like sit down. Okay, I'm going to make a ring. What is this ring going to look like? I have no idea. I'm just going to start, carving a wax, and we'll just see what happens. And then most of the time, when I'm actually making a ring, if it's not for a client and it has to be a certain, design, if I'm just making one for stock for the case there, I mean, it's never what I've first started out with. As I'm making it, new ideas come, and it changes and morphs, over the time of actually making it. And then on top of that, I'll carve a wax and I'll cast it. And as far as like, since I mentioned I do hand engraving, like I don't know what hand engraving I'm going to do on it. I don't know if I even will do hand engraving on it. And so after it's in the metal, that's when I start I basically just take a Sharpie and just start drawing on it and see what appeals to me. So, like I said, I'm just, I'm making it up as I go along. That's literally what I do.
Well, it's like you've said the entire time, if if one thing really stuck for me for our conversation is your jewelry, I'm getting there, making is just, it's not so much about, it's about the art, you know, like you said, wearable art. It's about being creative with it. Not, okay, I know that if I make 150 of these bands, I can make them and sell them. And, you know, this is how much I've got in it. And if I sell, you know, more the production route, like you talked about, if I sell 150 of these a month, I'm going to make X amount of profit. So I'm going to focus on that. And, you know, that's kind of, like you said, that's some people in business say, well, hey, if you did it this way, you'd be more successful or be more scalable or be able to predict the future more. But you're just like, okay, man, I'm an artist. I'm gonna do what I want. Yeah. Every day I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna start this project. When I wake up tomorrow, I may go a different route. And I think that is super cool. I love that. And it probably stresses some people around you out because they may need more structure. I'm speaking from experience now. My wife's like, you wake up every day with like a little bit, you know, Thomas can tell you this. I'll call him sometimes to be like, all right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take over the world. We're going to do it this way. And then the next time we talk, I'm like, nah, fuck all that. We're going to do this. But that's the way my brain works too. So I love that you're able to do that and bring that art level into it. Jacob, legacy. We kind of touched on this with like, hey, I go into a house 80 years from now and I'm looking through great grandma's stuff and I'm like, oh shit, man, like that's a Jacob piece. Like, is that in your eyes, is that legacy or is it leaving something behind for your children? You said you had 3 boys, girls?
My oldest is a boy and the two younger are girls.
Okay. And how old are they now?
25, 23, and 21.
Did they go to a state-supported school?
No. Well, actually, my son went to GTCC for a couple semesters there. And then my middle child, she actually put herself through esthetician school.
Okay.
And then my youngest hates school, and so she didn't go at all. So
don't blame her for that. I wouldn't have, hindsight, I wouldn't have gone. Well, maybe later. I would have gone right out of high school. I wasn't ready. But
yeah.
No,
I mean, I think that, you know, basically when we started this business, my kids were teenagers and, you know, we didn't have, as I already said, we were poor, basically. We didn't have any money. And, you know, as a parent, you want to give, you know, to your kids and give them what they want and need and all that kind of stuff. And we just didn't have it. Like there was nothing to give them. And I feel like even though it was like hard, I feel like they're better off for it, you know, because they weren't handed stuff. I mean, they had to go out and get a job and work. You know, if they wanted something, you know, they need to go out and get a job and buy it themselves because we didn't have the money for it.
I can appreciate that. I'm going to hone in on that because I grew up seeing both sides of that. And, you know, I have a 3-year-old now. So, you know, me and my wife are like, well, what are we going to do? And is he going to go to school? Is he going to start a business? I mean, at this point, we're just like, we're still keeping him alive. You know, is he happy? Is he going to be happy with what he's doing? And it's cool to hear. Like, you know, I was fortunate. My grandfather came from a poor farming family, and he did pretty well. Went and got an accounting degree, started working for a company, became staple, ended up buying it with my dad in the 80s, textile company. And, you know, also locally, Dixie Belle Textiles was the name of a lot of. But I will say this, growing up, it was kind of a mix. It was like, hey, I'll get you your first car, which was fine. You know, it wasn't expensive. It was like, you know, if you wreck this, like that's your only chance. But it wasn't something that we would all be like, oh my God, you know. But it was like the gas and the insurance, and if you want to drive yourself somewhere to do something, you know, that's on you. You go get a job, you do that. But I'll get you the car. You got to do the rest. And I always appreciated that because, like, I saw some people that had to go, if they wanted a car, they had to go do it themselves. And to the complete opposite, you know, they're rolling up in a $50,000 car as a 16-year-old. And you're like, looking at that now, I'm not knocking anybody that does that, to each their own. I'm probably not going to do that for my son. But it was nice because I feel like I appreciated more the hard work, you know, that my parents did. But at the same time, it was nice that they were able to give me something too. I could go on a long, drawn out way of how I feel about that stuff. But I think it's cool. I wish more people, even if, you know, regardless of their ability and means, would, hey, you gotta learn to do it on your own too. Like, I want to make sure you got the roof over your head. I want to make sure you got the tangibles that you need, and maybe a little bit here or there. But, like, you know, you want this, you got to go earn it. And here's how you're going to do that. And so that's
there's a funny story. One of my kids went to a friend's house, and this friend was very well off, and she was like, basically came home and was telling us how, my gosh, you would not believe the size of this house, man. I had no idea they were that rich. And so I responded back to her, well, does she know how poor you are? It was quite hilarious.
Well, no, Dad never thought of it that way. But, you know, it's again, the later I get, they could have had that big house and still been broke, really. They might have been living off credit. They might have had a great salary, but if they didn't have 8 weeks of work, that big house may be gone the next day. And, you may not have the big house, but as cliche as it is, like, it doesn't mean it's not a great home or a rich home to live in, you know, depending on how it is. I didn't mean to take us down some weird parenting, like, you know, it's not about the money. It's not about the money. Money does help though. Yeah. But no, thank you for sharing that. And I know owning a business is hard, and I know that it can take emotional tolls. And so I commend you for that, and I commend you for doing what you love and what you're passionate about. I think there's so many of us that wake up every day that would not really even understand what that was like, because a lot of us just kind of do what puts food on the table, and it's not about waking up every morning and being like, man, I get to go live my dream, rich or poor. Yeah. And it sounds like you found a way to do that and make enough money to provide and even excel in that, even though at times it wasn't all there. So it's so cool to hear that. I love that. I think that's what owning businesses is about, is just being able to fucking do what you love day in and day out. And so kudos to that. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I'd like to say, you know, that old saying where, you know, if you love what you do, then you don't work a day in your life. And, you know, I love what I do. I'm sure there are aspects of it that I don't love, you know, but that's just part of owning a business. You know, you got to do stuff, and, you know, maybe a job that I'm working on, you know, I don't really love this job, you know, but hey, I got to do stuff that I got to do it because I got bills I got to pay.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of being custom, right? You're going to have somebody comes in that wants you and your work, and they want it their way, and you may be like, oh, I'm just like, this is the ugliest piece of shit I've ever put together, but I still have to be passionate about it because I don't want the project to suffer or them to not. But I was going to say, like, that's the hardest part of business for me. I love people. I love my clients. I love, you know, but dealing with people day in and day out is tough, especially if they're giving you money to do something for them. I would imagine it's like, oh, well, that little bit of that engraving right there, I thought it was going to go this way. And you're like, we talked about that 30 times about how it was going to be right here. And then you get it to them and they're like, I don't remember that. It's like, yeah, Gonna wring your neck.
I would say that those moments are very, very rare for me.
Are they?
I mean, almost everyone is like, wow, this is the most awesome, beautiful thing I've ever seen. I mean, I've had people cry, when they receive their piece, So, whether it's because of something that they're, like it was their mom's diamond or something, and I'm making something new for them with it. So, I mean, I like to say I have the best job in the world. It's all around happy, times. Yeah. It's anniversary. It's getting married. It's birthdays. People that come in my shop are happy.
Well, I mean, did you see that? Hey, Thomas, did you see that subtle flex right there? He's like, I don't deal with that. People love my shit.
I mean,
half the people leave my store crying from happy. I'm picking on you, man. But no, that's cool to hear that, right? That's a testament to how solid your work is.
But saying that doesn't mean I still don't have stresses and worries. Like, are they going to love this? And they inevitably do, but that doesn't mean in my own brain, I'm like, am I nailing this? Like, is this their vision that they had? And like I said, it's very, very rare that people aren't like, wow, this is amazing.
You ever wake up at like 3 a.m. with those haunting thoughts, like, man, I think I fucked that up. I don't know if they're gonna like it. Or
I mean, not at 3 a.m. because typically once I fall asleep, I'm asleep. But I definitely have those things like, oh well. They showed me this picture here for their reference, and it's not exactly like that. I changed this part a little bit here. Are they going to be okay with that? And, it's totally fine and nothing, it's what is amazing is people's attention to detail. Like, everyone's different how much they pay attention to detail. And, that's my brain. I'm like, attention to detail, every little line, every little dot is all intentional. And so people come in and we're sitting there designing a piece. I'm like, okay, well, here, what about this? How do you want this to go? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I didn't know I didn't know I needed to worry about that. I didn't know I needed to make that choice. Like I thought, I'd come in and it'd be like, I get A or I get B. And for me, I was like, well, you come in and you get the whole alphabet. Like, it's not just A or B. Like, we're making this from scratch.
Custom, baby.
And you get whatever you want. And so I'm peppering them with questions, and they're like, I didn't know it'd be this hard. I didn't know I'd have to make so many choices.
So, as we wrap, one, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
This has been a super cool episode on a lot of different reasons. Definitely. We talked about me coming by and looking at that horseshoe. Going to do that soon. We can set that up. If there's somebody comes and sees you, you do some work for them, small project, big whatever it is, $10 project, $10 million project, and they leave, inevitably they're going to show that piece of art, that jewelry, to somebody. And that first time they show it to them, like, what would you just, in your wildest of dreams, what would that person say to that other person? Like, hey, look, check this out. Or like, what emotion would you want that to carry? Is that, I don't know if I'm asking that question the way I'm trying, like what's the one thing you would want them to take away from that piece of art you made for them, verbally saying it to somebody in that moment?
I mean, my kind of vision for making jewelry is to make, unique, one-of-a-kind stuff. And so my idea is like, oh, I've never seen anything like that before. That's the reaction that I want, that I'm looking for.
Okay. So almost kind of the other way around, like, hey, I just, Jacob, he's amazing. He just made this killer ring for me. Check this out. And then the other person looks at it and is like, holy shit, that's one of a kind. I've never seen anything like that before. That would, that would be awesome.
That's what I want.
I love that. No, that's cool. Being in Greensboro for now, going on 35 years almost.
Yeah, a long time.
What's something that you've really enjoyed seeing as our city has evolved?
I mean, I love seeing the downtown, starting to grow and thrive and have a downtown scene. Back in the 90s, there was nothing downtown. It was basically there was Glitters and Blumenthal's, and that was it.
Blumenthal's. I remember when there was a Blumenthal's at Friendly Center too. I don't know how long that was like. Shit. That's probably right around the. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. That's one thing that I when I go to out of town, someplace else, like I want to go to downtown. I want to walk downtown. I want to go in cool shops and eat at cool restaurants. That's what I'm looking to do, and have parks and stuff like that. And so I love how Greensboro is. That is changing in Greensboro, and I'm looking forward to all the new things that are coming to Greensboro, all the new developments, and the only bad thing is like when you have a big development, like it takes a couple of years to get that stuff up and running. But I'm looking forward to all the new stuff that's coming.
Do you feel like that's going to push your business up along with it?
I would think so.
Yeah.
I'm downtown, and the reason why I love being downtown itself is there is a sense of community down there. Like the people who are other business owners downtown. Like we talk and we hang out, and we talk about business and how are things going for you, and we kind of support each other in that aspect, and just the people like who come downtown all the time. Like you just see the same people. They're just walking around and doing stuff downtown.
Yeah, it's been a big topic of conversation the last couple of months. Just downtown growth, good, bad, ugly.
Yeah,
restaurants shutting down.
Yeah,
I won't get into your opinions and vibes around that, but I love that. I love I'm 40 years here myself, and I too remember when. We didn't go downtown. There just wasn't anything there unless you wanted to go clubbing. And fat ginger kid, I wasn't in the clubs tearing it up on the dance floor. It wasn't my style. Favorite restaurant in Greensboro?
Ooh, it kind of changes depending on.
I'll make it easier on you. Favorite restaurant to get a steak at?
Oh, at home.
I'm the same way.
I would say right now, one of my favorite restaurants is Acropolis.
Acropolis?
Yeah.
Where is that at?
What is that street? It's right near the ballpark there.
Okay.
I forgot what the name of that street is.
I've never eaten there. How have I never eaten there?
It is phenomenal Greek, authentic Greek food.
This is like right downtown by the ballpark?
Yeah, right. Like on the outfield, that main, they built those apartments there, and that hotel is right there on the corner. Like you just keep going north, and it's right there on the right past all that.
I will see you guys soon. I got to go check that out. Love Greek food. Is it more like a sit-down restaurant, or is it? Yeah,
it's a sit-down restaurant. My wife and I actually were there last Saturday, and, it was phenomenal. They actually had it was Friday. They actually had like a musician there playing Greek-style music.
Really?
It was pretty cool.
Heck yeah.
We got this sample platter with all the different Greek, I don't even know how to pronounce all that stuff, so don't ask me. Like just sample platter of appetizers that was just so good.
I can't pronounce jewelry, so I'm not going to pick on you for that. No, that's cool. Okay, so outside of downtown, not to get it, not saying bad things about downtown, what restaurant, if you're not downtown, what's the next best spot?
Well, my wife and I are big pizza fans, so probably Cugino Forno's is one of our go-to places. It's just really good pizza, and it comes out, like only takes them 3 minutes to cook it, so it comes out real quick. So
heck yeah, no, it's a really solid place. I need to go there more often. We go to Sticks and Stones a lot. We live right there on Elam. Love Neil, Fishbone, Sticks and Stones.
Yeah, we went to Sticks and Stones the other week, and that's very good pizza too. And they have use the Giacomo's pepperoni, which I mean you can't. That's like so good.
I mean, we're starting to really name drop now. Giacomo's, that's a great. If you haven't eaten there, go get a sandwich from Giacomo's. Very, very good.
All their homemade pepperoni, and my favorite is the hot sopressata is just my favorite. So,
nice. Well, one more question. Just if I've never been to Greensboro, I'm watching this episode outside of visiting you to get a custom piece made. What should I do? Like, man, you gotta go do this. Gotta go here. Need to check this out.
That's a great question, and I would say, for me, my wife and I, we like to hike a lot. So, there's so many good trails all around Greensboro that you don't have to. You literally can drive like a mile or two or 5 or whatever and be in the woods and walk around a lake. I would say, up there north, Battleground 220, there's, I don't even know what the name of those lakes are. I just go and walk around them. But that's probably one of our favorite things to do is just go out in nature and walk around.
We do, all up and down, Church Street, Elm Street, up north, Lake Brant, I think.
Yeah, Lake Brant.
Miles and miles of trails, and they're marked too, so it's not like you're just in the wilderness. But
yeah,
that's cool. A lot of people don't realize. You can go kayaking. You got the court. You can go walk around the old battlefield courthouse where the science center is.
Yeah, we walk out there. So like we go to the court or the
country park courthouse. I don't know.
Yeah, the military. We call it the military park. But, like you can, if it's wet outside, it's been raining or whatever, you can still walk on that asphalt circle, But as long as it's not wet, like we try and go, walk on the dirt. As long as it's not muddy. So,
Jacob, thanks a lot, buddy. I appreciate you being here and hope to see you again soon. Jacob Raymond, right?
Yep.
Jacob Raymond Jewelers. Downtown, McGee Street, custom jewelry. Give him a shout. Check him out on Instagram. Sounds like he's about 8 weeks out right now. Hopefully soon to be like 12 weeks out. But again, thanks for being here, buddy. And we appreciate your time.
Absolutely. I enjoyed our conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Peace, everybody.